Hey, thanks for tuning into the podcast. And before it begins, I have a favor to ask. I'd love to hear your honest feedback about the podcast. So please call our listener line at 631-800-3579. 631-800-3579. Leave a message and let me know your thoughts. The show description also has my contact information. Okay, now on with the show. Welcome to the Long Island Sound Podcast, where we explore the muse and the music, from the North Shore to the South Shore, from New York City to the Hamptons, navigating the wellspring of original music from singer-songwriters and musicians from Long Island, New York. Hi, I'm Steve Yusko from GigDestiny.com. Stay tuned as we explore the Long Island Sound. Like the rising of the phoenix, the career of Kelli Baker is beginning to soar. You'll be amazed by her music and soulful voice as she debuts 2 new songs. Today I peel away at the many layers of the artist behind the music. Kelli Baker's music is a showcase and lesson to allow ourselves to be vulnerable in art. Bringing her audience along, Kelli sings from the heart, pulling our heartstrings in directions unimaginable. Take a listen to her song, Intimate Creatures.
Just whirling in the world you're spinning. Sideways dance through the alleys of your heart. Watch your shadow flicker down the walls that you forgot. So I slide to taste the sin you're sinking in. If I could only save you from the guilt, the ties you wear. Don't forget I'm an intimate creature. Don't pull the fruit that you don't intend to feed you. Shift me sideways, let me see your point of view. Dance me through your darkness, spill it all and love me through. Like a jacket full of watches, it's past time you're holding to. that you don't intend to feed you.
I don't know too much about my guest today, but after listening to her music, I can testify to one thing. This lady's got soul. Alicia Keys, Amy Winehouse, Mary J. Blige, Norah Jones, Susan Tedeschi, make room for Kelli Baker. Her catchphrase from Pablo Picasso on her website states, "Every act of creation is first an act of destruction." And the one thing that Kelli Baker destroys for me is any notion of pigeonholing her music into one genre. Born and raised in Phoenix and transplanted to New York in 2012, Kelli quickly caught the ear of fans in the music scene here on Long Island. In this episode, we'll discover the artist behind the music, and I have no doubt we'll be able to create some adoring fans for this lovely lady. Hey, welcome to the Long Island Sound podcast, Kelli. Great to have you here.
Thank you for having me.
So you are my first transplanted guest who actually didn't grow up in the metropolitan area, which I think is kind of cool. So you were raised out in Pahonix, out in Arizona.
Yes.
And I got to ask you this right off the bat is why New York?
Oh, I always just felt like I was supposed to be here. Ever since I was very, very young, there was no doubt that this is where I was going. I don't know why. I just was always coming.
Oh, okay.
So it finally happened in 2012. It was the stars aligned, and there were some hiccups along the way, but it was the time, and we made it happen.
Now, I've done a lot of travel in my work. I love the West. I love Arizona. It's very brown, I got to say. My daughter actually taught out in Tucson for the past 2 years. So I got to go out there in very warm weather, and I melted for like 2 days.
Yeah.
Probably could have melted a little bit more if you asked my wife. But so was there a culture shock for you when you came to New York?
Oh, yes. I mean,
you were pretty young, right? In your 20s?
At the time? Yeah.
I'm sorry. Yeah, you're an old lady now.
It was very different. I came out here knowing this is where I was supposed to be. And my first time actually touching down in New York was June of 2012. And it was kind of just to suss it out. And then I was here in October. I got here just as Hurricane Sandy hit. So as Hurricane Sandy was hitting, I was already driving across the country in a U-Haul.
Wow. Amazing. Yeah, I actually live on the South Shore that got hit really bad. So, wow. Okay. So they made a clearing for you to come into town.
There was a lot, and my experience, of course, is very minimal compared to so many others, but talking about a culture shock, I never saw, or just a shock in general, I never saw actual snow come down. And I don't know if you remember, we had that nor'easter then, and it was very early in the season and right after Sandy. So there was no power and that nor'easter. And that was pretty intense. I didn't have boots or a jacket or anything. I didn't think any of that was happening yet.
I had cousins from San Diego or east of San Diego. And I remember as a kid, man, when they saw snow, they freaked out.
Oh, yeah.
We had to go get the sleighs and do some sleigh riding down and, find a couple of hills and stuff. And it was just like a great adventure. So that's really neat. That's neat. So, so you hit the scene here, and did you have family here or no, do you have some connections here in New York at all or no?
My aunt lived in Huntington. So that's kind of where the jumping off place was. And I had intended to go into the city. But the way that it happened, I had a lot of hiccups along the way. Like my truck blew its engine. I sold it for scrap metal on the way. We got robbed, all kinds of things. So when I finally got here, I was exhausted all of my savings. So I took a bunch of resumes and walked up and down the street in Huntington Village and got hired at 2 places and at 2 restaurants because I have a restaurant background initially.
Okay.
And so the way that it kind of worked out is I got hired here in Huntington and then I ended up falling in love with it and staying.
Nice, nice. So along this journey, you had a lot of things, I guess, to write about, man. When it comes to the struggles that we have in life, and that in listening to your music, because I really get into my guest music like just a couple of days before we get to talk. I can really, what kind of came to mind to me in your voice and the way there's a lot of emotion, and I really mean it. There is that soul that comes through your voice, which is a big compliment. Is that I was thinking about singers like yourself emote feelings that I could never emote. I have them. I can't, and the way you express it just kind of gives a great connection to your audience in how you go about that. So let me ask you and we'll get into the early stuff. What kind of brought you into music, but what drives you to write music?
Well, I've always written in a way, but I think that what drove me to write the correct music or the right music was when I stopped caring so much what other people thought. Okay. So there was a lot of things that used to go into my writing where I would just be scared to really, I think I sent you Red Winter. Did I send you that?
Oh, yes, absolutely.
So that's the one that kind of, when I do that, people are kind of, but it's the most intimate song I've ever written. And I used to think, what are my parents going to think? Or what's my grandmother going to think? Or anything if I really expose myself for what I am, because I used to really care what other people thought. And once I just made peace with not caring about that, then the real writing came out. And that's what really, people don't want everything that is surface. They want to connect with things. And so it connects for me, and I feel like it connects for other people.
Right. And that's really, you kind of put yourself out there. And as you were explaining that to me, I was thinking, I like to do public speaking, and I like to write. And as a younger man, maybe not so younger man recently, is sometimes you write to impress your spouse, impress your family and your friends. But once you get freed up from that, and not that you don't care what people say, but you take it with a grain of salt and you're not fully affected by it.
Right.
And then when you are vulnerable, that's what I find as far as people who are present to each other, and particularly singer-songwriters who are vulnerable and speak the emotions and the experiences of something that I can connect to. Man, you build a fan base and you build people who really, really love your music, but it's putting yourself out there. I've spoken to singer-songwriters who may disparage writing in the first person. Look at Taylor Swift. I mean, she always writes, right. I hate to date her, because maybe more, like that would ever happen. But, in another life, but to be immortalized in song that way. And some songwriters take that route of creating characters and scenes and stuff like that, that are way outside of their wheelhouse. Mm-hmm. And that I find interesting, as well. So we did, before the introduction, we played, Intimate Creatures, which is a great song. Give me an idea how that came about, when that was written. I don't even know, is that released yet? Or
that's coming out July 1st.
We've got an exclusive here on the Long Island Sound, everybody. Wow. I'm excited. We can stop right now.
That's coming out July 1st. So I wrote that the summer of last year. I almost hesitate to say why too much, because
you don't have to go. You don't have to get into the why.
Find out.
Right. Right, exactly.
But it's what's the idea? Especially as we go through life, we get kind of this hardened shell. I know especially for me, I come across as, let's just say, I don't open myself up as easy as I used to.
Okay. You're a little You're a little guarded.
Yeah, but that doesn't mean that I'm not this person underneath, and that's what that song is about. I might present as this way, but that's all protection kind of, but underneath all of that, you're this lush person still. It just takes a little bit to get used to. or to discover, I guess. And sometimes that gets overlooked.
All right. Well,
that's my own fault too, I guess, because I don't.
Don't worry. I'm going to get to the real Kelli Baker. Don't worry. Even if it takes a couple hours, and podcast is no limit. We can find out the real person. So, how did you find? This may sound strange. How did you find your voice in the style of which you sing? Did it come right out of the bat, after adolescence that, because you have a sultry, emotional, soulful approach to things. Was it always that way?
No. I remember certain things that inspired me. One was I always did choir, or I was in chorales, and I went to a Christian school. And so music was always kind of around. And I remember seeing a woman named Talitha Scott, and we had this retreat where we would go up north, and it was like a big camp for all of the kids at the school. And we would put on performances, and she was a transplant. She came through from Nashville to Arizona, and she was actually friends with the Judds. And she just brought something she just got up and sang, "Precious Lord, Take My Hand," at that retreat. And it was just like nothing I'd ever heard in my life. And then she sang it again at this music competition that we went to. And I used to have it and listen to it over and over again and try to train myself to be that way. And it did not work out for me, but sure. I tried, and the thing about, voices, I feel if you work on it, now it takes a long, long, long time, like years, but it's just like learning the guitar or the piano or anything. If you can start here and you continually work, there's the work that you do from yourself, but another huge part of it is the people that you surround yourself with and encourage you, because in order to bring the big sounds, you have to feel comfortable bringing the big sounds, and it takes a lot of courage.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that would be, I would say, the open mic scene that I fell into around 2018 that really brought that out.
So that was a pivotal moment for you to look at that. Now, did you take vocal lessons? Did you? I always have the joke. My wife still looking for the money for the vocal lessons I was supposed to take, but did you do vocal training or?
Not outside of the choir, but I mean that was a long time. I mean, I knew how to sing I was in the church choirs, and then I was in audition choral groups, and I did, musical theater as a kid. But as far as one-on-one training, no.
Wow. Okay, that's pretty neat. So you found. I guess we're always constantly developing our voice when it comes like that. And you brought something else up, which I want to point out is really that's another instrument. Your voice, your vocal cords, an instrument. You have to treat it well. You have to warm up. Mm-hmm. You have to do certain exercises. You just don't, belt it out. You treat it well. I spoke to other singer-songwriters and said, yeah, no, I don't drink alcohol before a show because, I want to be at my best. I want things kind of tuned up, to deliver something out there. And considering the way that you sing, man, I would think a lot of attention has to go to that, to be prepped beforehand. Is that true?
Yeah.
Oh, tell me you wing it. Just tell me, come on. Yeah, I don't do any of that, Steve. I just go out there and belt it out. I don't do as much
prep as I should. I'm kind of bad, and I have to safeguard myself. Yeah, I do a little bit of warming up, but I really shouldn't do that much. But I do end up, I perform about 4 or 5 times a week.
Yeah, so this is actually not a podcast episode. This is an intervention. I spoke to your band members. And they said, Kelli, come on. I mean, do the vocal exercises. We don't want you screwing up out there. And why don't we do this? Let's take a quick break. I really want to learn about some of your early influences, and we share a couple of influences in common. So hang on, everybody. We'll be back with the great Kelli Baker. Hang in with us. Hi, Steve Yusko from Gig Destiny here. Well, as you're probably listening to this podcast, you're probably thinking about that musician who would make a fantastic guest here on the Long Island Sound. Well, we'd like to hear their story. We'd like to hear their music. So have them reach out to us at gigdestiny.com and we'll explore their craft. Now, back to our podcast. Hey, welcome back, everybody. We're here with Kelli Baker. I'm Steve Yusko, your host for the Long Island Sound. We're having a lot of fun, I think.
Yes, we are.
Kelli, I want to talk about your early influences. I'm always interested in when did you pick up an instrument? We share a couple of influences in common. The Rolling Stones, obviously. Neil Young. I'm a huge Neil Young fan. My wife curses at me and says, "Don't try to sing like Neil ever." And what was that other group that you like? Jane, Addicted.
Jane's Addiction.
Yeah, I just checked them out. They're new to me as far as an influence. So we'll check them out. But tell me about it. When did you pick up an instrument? What was your, influences to say, yeah, I think I like doing this. I think I can do it.
So I always wanted to be a performer in some way. I was always a singer. I play a terrible piano. I played a decent flute at one point, but kind of gave that up. And then at a high school, I got into some hard rock bands and I was singing then and doing some different stuff. But I was always limited because I didn't play the guitar. So, as time went on and I had some bands and they fell apart, I had so much songwriting. So I was always a cocktail waitress for years and years. And then I was a restaurant manager. And a lot of times when they print your receipts or your checks, that gives you your total, I would feed out the paper and keep it in my check presenter and have 10 of those in there and just write lyrics as I was walking around between the tables.
Oh, that's cool.
Or I'd get a good one and then I'd run into the bathroom stall and be scribbling in there, to hiding from people, because sometimes things really come to me when I'm kind of doing other things and bopping around. If I sit here and be like, write something brilliant, it's never going to happen. It always just kind of comes and I have to seize it when it comes. So that's what I did. And then I was limited because I didn't have the ability to play the guitar and accompany myself. Okay. So one of my ex-boyfriends broke up with me and then he gave me a guitar that he got at a pawn shop. He said, nice. I know. Cool. He said, I know I'm going to regret it one day, but here's a guitar. Wow. So, okay, so thanks.
Here's your consolation prize. We'll never see each other again. And
so it's so funny because we're still in contact sometimes. And he's like, where's my tickets to the show? Nice, I bought you the guitar. But so I had that and I used that for years. And I bought myself a book on how to play the guitar. And I taught myself that way for years, which was not the right way to learn guitar. It wasn't until a few years ago that I really put effort into it. But that's what I did to accompany myself so I could write.
Yeah. I tell you what helped me. And I started early in my early 20s, picked up, played the 3 chords and put the thing down for 10 years. Said, this is too hard. What helped me were guitar tabs and YouTube. Yeah. And once I could see it, I could get it. And then eventually I took some lessons and to get to know the neck and stuff like that. What I think was kind of key is, with these receipts, the check receipts as a waitress walking around, you do what a lot of people don't do. A lot of people are hit, and I'm guilty of this. You're hit with the muse. Maybe you throw it in your phone. I have got lots of stuff recorded on my phone that I'm guilty of not going back to, but you act on it. You act on the muse as you get it and you write it down and then you revisit, I'm sure, and you plug it in. And that is, that takes some training to do that, and be consistent. You got to woodshed that almost to be a singer-songwriter, to kind of jump into it. So, all right. Another question, introvert or extrovert?
Extroverted introvert. So I like to be out and about, but I also really like solitude. I'll travel by myself. I just got back from a music convention. I went by myself. I have no problem.
Well, you went to the NAMM show.
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw it on Facebook and I was like, oh, I hope she's going to be here tonight. How did you like the NAMM show? I haven't been yet.
That's my 4th year.
Okay.
So I love it. I just it's invigorating every year. Here's a great story. Here's a side.
Yeah, please. All right.
So
it's about time, by the way.
2018. That's where everything, you'll hear me kick that year up a lot. And it really was just a catalyst of a time. There were just things that moved into place that pushed me into what I'm doing now, finally. Because I got to a point where I just, everybody gets kind of complacent, right? You get a lot of things that come into your life, and next thing you know, years go by and you're not doing what you thought you were going to be doing. And it was around that time where basically I walked into a backstage at a concert. Somebody brought me backstage at a concert. And I've been backstage at a concert before, but this one was different. And I walked in there and I just thought, I've got to get back into this kind of room as soon as possible. It was a really heavy music industry bigwig backstage. Okay. And I just felt like I walked into the room I was supposed to be in. And I feel like everybody has gifts, right? For myself, I'm a big, not just musically, I like business and I like marketing, and I could never make sense of if I wanted to go down that route or if I wanted to go down the musical route. And it wasn't until I realized I could do that for myself and put all those together that I felt like I was doing what I was supposed to be doing. Go ahead. I'm sorry. Getting into NAMM the first time, I thought I walked out of there and I thought, I've got to get back into this room no matter what. And once I get like that, I get very tenacious. And NAMM is very heavy industry only. And I didn't realize that at the time. I just thought, hey, I'll show up at this convention. It'll be great. So I showed up. I'm sorry. I submitted. They said, get out of here. No way.
Really? Okay.
Yes.
I mean, just to attend, you have to have certain credentials in order to make it into the room. Okay. Gotcha.
I think this year they finally let artists in, but I've been going long enough that they don't do it. Like, you have to, if you're an artist, you have to basically be brought in by, say, Yamaha or something, or you can be a guest of somebody, or you have to be in the business itself or work for a recording studio. So my first producer owns a recording studio. I spoke to him and he said, sure, I'll say you're my
credentials.
Studio manager. So I submitted again. They said no dice. They said, you need credentials. So I made fake business cards. And I made fake letterhead, and I submitted again, and they said it's pending. So finally I called them and I said, I'm getting on a plane, so you better push this through because I'm late for this convention. And they said, sorry, Miss Baker, here's your badge. And the whole time that I was on the plane and walking up there, I was thinking, oh, I'm going to get busted, thrown out of here. But it worked, and I've been going every year since.
Fake it till you make it, baby. That's great. That's what's interesting is I know a lot of artists who couldn't market themselves out of a wet paper bag. Yeah. Okay. They're focused on their art, and some of the older artists are like, it's a humility thing almost. It's kind of interesting, but you do have to be able to get yourself on different stages and platforms. And what tied into in listening to what you said, how you felt like you were always supposed to be in New York. Yes. And how you were always supposed to be on that stage. It's almost like this forward deja vu of picturing yourself or getting that little seed planted. Yeah. That drives you, which I think it's great. I've always loved marketing. My wife Debbie busts my balls because she goes, man, you love yourself, don't you? And you're happy to talk about it, but hey, if you don't tell people,
yourself, right?
Yeah, and you know what? Even with this podcast, which has been I've been very lucky that every interview leads to, like, I'm not kidding, 4 or 5 other artists who I get introduced to, and it's a blessing for me because I get to hear great music and meet really, really wonderful people. And then what I hope to do is provide some insights, not only for myself but for the audience, to say, hey, this is what I did, and I ran into this struggle or that struggle. I'd love to get into the next song. I chose Blood on the Nile, if that's okay with you. So why don't you give me a little introduction to that? We'll let the audience – is this another exclusive, by the way?
Oh, yes. This is coming out September 9th.
This is like a double header. Oh, my God. Okay. You guys out there in the listening audience are in for a real treat because you got 2 exclusives and it's not even out there. And anyway – Kelli, tell us a little bit about the song, and then we'll jump into it, let everybody hear it.
So this song, Blood on the Nile, is very special because this has everybody from my band in it and people that I love contributing. So a lot of the work I've done before I really loved. It's been with a past producer who's been a great friend of mine, but he did a lot of the extra instrumentation and I brought the basics. This is different because it was a collaboration between my band, the Kelli Baker Band, and a couple of our other people that I brought in. And it's just, we did it as a live band recording. Did this at Cove City Sound in Glen Cove. That's Richie Cannata's studio. From everybody knows him from Billy Joel. He was Billy Joel's sax player. And he started that studio, and a lot of huge artists. Justin Bieber just recorded there. Mariah Carey did Vision of Love there. Celine Dion there. They did the Chicago soundtrack there. All kinds of stuff. Wow. And that's in Glen Cove. And so it was a beautiful studio. I was so happy with the way it turned out. And it seems like the sound just keeps coming more and more together the more that I put out.
Nice.
So, yeah.
Yeah. And by the way, just for those who are listening, I do have chapter marks. So everyone we mention, the studio and the different people in the podcast, you'll see that the photo changes on your phone as you're listening, and you'll also have links to the different websites. So if you want more information, and obviously you'll see the links for Kelli's website as well. So why don't we take a listen to Blood on the Nile, and then we'll be right back.
And the river, oh, the river's
Hey, everybody, we're back. We just listened to Blood on the Nile. And you had brought something up, Kelli, before the song where you said this was a kind of a collaborative effort. I want you to kind of expand upon that, because I believe there are singer-songwriters who are just sole practitioners. They bring everything in and they work with the producer in the studio to help with the arrangement, but they have it kind of locked up. So tell me how you approach different things or how it's evolving for you. I'm kind of interested in that.
I think with my band, it comes to us just really getting a lock on each other, and everybody is so talented in their own way. And there's no way that in my mind I could speak a bass line like my bass player can, or, I'm not that fluent in those instruments, and they are, and the way that comes together, like the guitar solo on that song is just insane. And my guitar player, Richie, he actually makes his own pedals, which is amazing.
All right. What's Richie's name? Because we got to promote Richie.
Richard Vishlensky.
That's a mouthful. All
it
right.
is a mouthful. It took me a while to get down to.
Richie V. Right.
He's amazingly talented. And a lot of these guys I met at open mics, and some of these guys I met through the music scene. Something that you don't really hear out here a lot is that pedal steel, which has got that country sound to it. And that guy, his name is Brother Dave, and he plays all over the island.
Okay.
And we met at a singer-songwriter showcase at Daisy's Nashville Lounge down in Patchogue, and we've ended up hitting it off and doing a couple gigs together. And I asked him to come in and perform on that. The keeps player is somebody I met at a jam. There's a jam we go to on Wednesday nights in Oyster Bay called the Homestead.
Okay.
And that keyboard player, he goes there. He's incredible. And I asked him to come in and play on the track, and just all of those things and the energy of all of this in the room together. That's another thing, the live recording, as opposed to recording the bass. You do a few takes, and the next guy comes in. We did it all.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, especially now that, the heavy duty part of isolation for COVID, which kind of forced everybody to be in different locations and try that. Mm-hmm. There's something to be said about being face to face, right? And working off each other's energy.
Just having the conversation. Yeah.
Yeah. So when the band came together over time, is it pretty fluid, or you pretty much have your you have all your people consistently at this point?
I have my consistent people. Sometimes we'll have people come in, like Bobby, the keyboard player. He's not available all the time, but when he can, he'll jump in. But that kind of came about. I always wanted to do it, but we played the Bitter End in November of last year, and I decided I wanted a full band for that. And then we all just kind of came together, and we've been going forward since.
That's great. That's really nice, because things always change, with any band. But wow, that's interesting how you do that. So you mentioned that you had a producer that you worked with. So did you move between producers recently? Because you have about 4 albums out, right? And I think you've been pretty prolific over the past couple of years.
Yeah, I've been releasing kind of single at a time, like every couple of months. And the first person I was working with that's Philip A. Jimenez. And he's a great friend. And he's actually one of my best friends. It's her husband. And they were both in Wheatus, which is a big Long Island band. Or started in Long Island. They did that song Teenage Dirtbag that everybody knows. And he was the original producer and percussionist on that. And I recorded at his studio in Huntington. Okay. And then I just wanted to explore some other sounds. And then that's kind of where Cove City came into play. It was I think it was the right move. And we came out with a beautiful project. So, yeah.
It's amazing. And I truly believe this as you look back on different milestones and different influences in your life, and I've come to the conclusion that there are no coincidences. Things happen for a reason. You run into this person or that person, and if you're tuned in, no pun intended, to what's actually happening, you recognize, hey, this could be the person I need, or I might be good for them. And I'm sure you've been on other people's albums, or it's pretty much your own stuff.
No, I haven't actually. I've been asked to do it, but I haven't done it. Yeah. I mean, I did some older stuff.
Okay, so you're very selfish. Okay, all right. Very self-centered and selfish.
There's some older stuff that I did that's very dated that
we'll find it. Is it on the web? We'll find it. See, the onion is peeling. We are peeling the onion. See? All right, so we found that out. See? Well, there's so many surprises here on the Long Island Sound that, you have to listen to the whole episode because God knows what's going to happen. She's going to ask an inappropriate question and stump the guest. No, I have not done that. So switching subjects. I noticed on your website when the About section, your dad passed in 2012, was it? 2015, excuse me. And that was kind of a turning point. So do you want to talk about that and, dad's influence on your career? And
Sure. I was very fortunate to have extremely, almost to their own detriment, supportive
parents. Okay, great.
Where they would just okay, Kelly, sounds great, and I would have these grandiose ideas and they would just let me do whatever I wanted when it came to these things. And especially when it came to anything creative, they were both just so great and so supportive. So that helped a lot with my courage, I would say. When my father passed away, maybe a couple years before that, and especially after that, then the wind was out of my sails for quite some time, and it happened very suddenly, and unexpectedly. And I'm also an only child.
That was my next inclination. I'm serious, and we have an only child as well. And sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, not at all. And he's very much a part of who I am. My mother as well. Sometimes you'll see her just coming out and I'll pick her up, and I actually moved my mother here last year from Phoenix. And she'll come up with a Kelly Baker shirt, and she has the phone case and stuff. I'm like, oh my God.
You're number one cheerleader. We all need cheerleaders. Absolutely.
Yeah. They were so supportive. But it was just, that's another thing that kind of ties into it. So when my father died, it was instantly this whole person, my whole identity of who I was, this person that had these parents that I loved so much. Like I said, it was called the Widowmaker. So it was just lights out, and he was supposed to be coming out here, to help with some things. It was a hard time already. And my whole identity, I felt, just got yanked from underneath me. There's the version of you before something like that happens, and then there's this other person, and you've got to kind of find out your navigation on that. And that kind of ties into, if you have this much time, why, if you can, you can't control everything, but if you can control some things, you kind of owe it to yourself to be the best version of yourself that you can be. Because if you're not, you're wasting your own time. So when it comes to my father being a turning point in my life, it was just that sobering realization of how precious life is. And once I was able to navigate through the grief, which took a long time, that was something I took
What was Dad's favorite music?
Ooh. Well, he liked the Beatles and stuff, but he liked the Stones more than the Beatles. But he liked soul. We went to see B.B. King together. Wow. He liked the Pointer Sisters and stuff.
Okay, very diverse. That's great. Where'd you see B.B. King? Did you see him in Memphis? In Arizona. Wow, Arizona. That's great. That's great.
Yeah, he was a big blues guy, and he would sing karaoke. And I remember going to sing karaoke with him. A couple of years before he died, he just started going out to these karaoke bars, and he was not the most humble person. He would be, I'm amazing. He's like, you gotta hear me. I'm so good. He's like, I should have been doing this my whole life.
That's
so we went out and did that. I'm glad we had those times together.
That's really wonderful. That's great stuff, man. It's interesting because we have an only daughter named Faith. She's very creative. I think Debbie and I were very encouraging she is bold and fierce, and, you know, she loves the microphone as well. And she's done things that just really kind of amazing. You know, we kind of, both Debbie and I look at us and go, wow, you know, that's just, it's the little things, you know, and we take a lot of pride. We spent our whole life telling her what, you know, hey, don't do what mom and dad did because we screwed up doing this. Just do the opposite. And it worked out for her. So far, so good. So it's just, yeah, parents have a great, did they, your parents play instruments as well or no?
My mom played the piano, my dad didn't play any instruments. I wonder a lot, had, you know, certain situations presented themselves, like had he been in a more singing environment, a more musical environment, what could have come out of that? Because a lot of it is just sitting in you and you don't know until it gets brought out. You know?
It's amazing when someone passes, and I'm a heck of a lot older than you. It kind of dwells. I told him I'm going to awake tonight, and you know, in an instant, someone's not there, we all reflect on this. We all reflect on, and what I've been reflecting on the past year or two, especially with COVID, is trying to be more present to people, and to when someone's talking, to really listen to them. It's tough with technology, you know, getting disrupted. But man, when you can just listen, I'll just tell you a quick story. We had this guy, Chat, pass away. They called him Chat because he liked to talk a lot. He had great stories. And in hindsight, in knowing Chat just wanted you to get to know him through his stories. And you know what? And we all have guilt of not being more attentive when we should be. But you know what? The next time I'm going to be a little more attentive, you know, to try to be present. Anyway, in that somber note, geez, yikes. I always get on a little soapbox once in a while, you know, and it drives the audience away. It's an amazing thing. Hey, I'd like to get into your third song. If you tell me this is an exclusive too, I'm going to freak out.
No.
God. Okay. No. All right. By the way, she really does have stuff that's published and out there on all the major platforms. Okay. You know, because everyone's guessing now, another exclusive. Does this girl actually have stuff that's out there? But tell us a little bit about Red Winter.
So that was kind of, sorry, my cat was attacking me. That's the most personal song I've ever written. And you could go you could just type in Red Winter, Kelli Baker on Google and read the lyrics when you listen to it. And I recommend anybody that listens to it to do that, so you can kind of sit in the song with me. But we'll do that in the chapter marks. Okay, cool. Yeah. I basically take all of my guts and I put them on the table, and it's obviously about a relationship with somebody, and that's kind of what kicked everything off. And I wouldn't say it had anything to do with that person as much as that experience needed to happen to be a catalyst. And I had to be in that kind of emotion to spur that kick to get moving. So I feel that I was misunderstood, and it's about, so I could, you know, we could sit side by side our whole lives, and yet we could have two completely different perspectives. Sure. It's really just what a lot of it is on the information that's presented to you, and your own experiences that bring you to other conclusions or perspectives. Right. Absolutely. Right. And so this person, I think, just completely misunderstood who I was. And there were factors there that enabled that to happen. And for me, I'm very vocal, and I like to explain myself, and I said I'm guarded, but I'm also very, I like to get my point across. And if I'm misunderstood, I like to be able to speak my piece on it. And that wasn't able to happen, which was very frustrating. So that's where that came out. And if you I'd like to meet this other version of me, the one that you wrote in your head and believe. That's one of the lines in there. And then it says, like, the one you imagine is this, and it goes into that. And that's what all right. Out of that. Let's song. Take a listen to Red Winter, and then we'll be right back after the song. Check it out, everyone.
dripping in winter. The sun is burned, forgot where you were warm, when you said the good words, and I believed that. What is it about me that scares you about you? One-eyed king, you see the world in blue. It's a shame all the colors wasted on you. The devil is in the details, and I saw you by the light in your eyes. Needle in a haystack, you prick, and I bleed. I bleed in colors you don't see. But baby, you like New York City, dirty and home to me. 30 days scream, sweet soaked melody. You slip through these fingers like you've never been in this again. When the world fell in love with you, well, that's how the world ends. 'Cause you burn it down before you let it keep you somehow. And I'm sorry I ever set foot in that mother of town. Bleeding red like the words you said, red like the bed, red like the night of Jane's, red like this crazy pain. The sun has fallen, my heart, oh my heart, red like the warm that it was at the start, red like the roses that fell from my hips, the honey that flowed from my ruby red lips, red like the text that I saw by mistake, red like this burning, this fire and this ache, red like the colors you don't care to see. But I don't think you've ever really seen me, and I'd like to meet this other version of me, the one that you wrote in your head and believe, the one you imagine is moonstruck and sad, pining and bitter, stalking and mad, head to the glass with her hands full of fists. Who never quite felt something like this? It purrs to your rhythm and it beats to your drum. Oh, honey, I've come. Oh, the fat lady has sung. And have you seen her lately? Do you know her? I don't. She's somewhere in that me that you wrote, the one that you left and should have called. It's too bad you don't know her, and you don't know me.
Hey, that song was really wonderful, and thanks for being transparent and letting us see and hear that. It's really nice. It's nice when singer-songwriters allow themselves to be vulnerable, because I think we all benefit from it. So thank you for that. I did mention to you during the break, I listened to the song Cathedral. I thought that was a great song too. I invite people to check it out. It was just,
Thank you.
Did you record it in a studio or in a church? Because it sounds like you did.
So I recorded that at Blockhead Studios in Deer Park. And I got that idea. I was actually traveling by myself, and I was in Paris, and I was at the Sainte-Chapelle, and they have the stained glass windows, and
Sure.
Each one of them tells like a parable, right? And then I got to thinking about how these pieces of glass come together and make these stories. So when you're thinking about putting that in perspective in your life, when you get broken and shattered, but then you can put them together and it makes this colorful version of who you are. And so that's kind of what
very nice
makes up the people.
Well, I tell you, you have some future ahead of you. I mean, I get excited about a lot of guests, but I really want to listen to more of your music. I can't wait to see what else you have coming out. Thank you for the exclusives. I'm gonna go to the mountaintops and talk about that, because it's really cool for me that you didn't do it on purpose, but it was nice, and I appreciate that. You're playing. I saw on your website you're playing all over, Long Island. On the Gig Destiny site, we'll definitely repost the different places that you'll be playing. Play both solo and with your band, right? Out there and about. So let me ask you one last question before we kind of wrap up: is where do you see things going for yourself? I mean, I think it's going good from what I can tell.
Well, it is fine. Now I'm a professional musician at this point. So this is what I do, which is wonderful. I mean, what can you ask for more than that, really? And then I'm just going to keep going and see where it goes. But I'm definitely, I'm doing it. So where do I see myself going? I see the band coming along really well and making some great music. I mean, I'm telling you, when we're in a rehearsal space together, and now we've gotten to know each other so well that we're like, hey, how about we add a harmony here? How about we do this?
Right.
And we're all comfortable putting our own spin on it.
I was in a church band that something similar happened. And in the beginning, it was tough because what may have appeared to be criticisms about vocals were really suggestions of where to take it. And once we all got kind of comfortable with it, the nuances of personalities, it was great. We produced some really kind of cool stuff. We had ladies who were great vocalists that I learned a lot. To me, it was a music lesson every Wednesday. And if you heard me play, you would be like, yeah, he needs a lot of Wednesdays to learn some more. Yes.
I mean,
you just did a snap thing.
I will say one thing.
What do you want to say?
Can I say one? Going back. This is just on that note, right? So people bringing things out in each other. So when I started going out to open mics again, that was that time period a few years ago. My friend's dad dragged me to this open mic. I was, I had kind of given up on music. I was just playing in my living room and putting videos out on YouTube, but I was terrified to play in front of other people. Play guitar, I could sing in front of other people easily, but playing guitar was very intimidating to me. And I went to an open mic in Huntington at the Nag's Head, and this guy dragged me there. He said, I'm going to do it. If I'm going to do it, you're going to do it. I said, okay. And I went, and I was not good. My guitar was awful. I think it was awful. But the host came up and said, you know what? That was great. You should come back. And for some people, that's really what it is. It's like, I just really want to stress how important that is. Just to make that first step, that's huge. To go to an open mic and put yourself out there like that, it's really, really, really hard. And to have anybody come up and say, you know what, that meant something to me, or that was good. Sometimes that's all it takes to spur this magic moment with people. And I just try and encourage people to encourage others as much as I can.
Yeah, I think, my opinion on the open mics, people are there to encourage and be cheerleaders. Yeah. They want you to be successful. They know you're nervous. Same thing with public speaking. You find a couple of those eyeballs that are encouraging you with their body language, and you tackle it. So thank you for that tip, because that's what people need to hear. I end my podcast this way. A friend of mine said, you never know how much time, you can account for what's in your bank. You can account for what you own. You can never account for how much time you have left. The fact that you gave me an hour of your time plus in preparing for this, I really appreciate it, Kelli.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks for being my guest. I really love to have you come back. Send all your friends.
All right.
Send the bandmates over. They want to chat. I'm an easygoing guy. I don't ask too many tough questions, but I appreciate you being here, and I look forward to seeing you live and in person and out on the music scene.
Thank you so much. Happy to meet you as well.
Thank you for joining us today. I appreciate the time you spent with us. Please subscribe and comment and visit us at gigdestiny.com. Till next time, be generous with your joy, keep your spirits high, and let the music take you on a journey. Be well. Peace. Thank you for listening, and please support our musicians. If you like the podcast, please rate, comment, and subscribe. If you want to partner with us, visit gigdestiny.com. Hit that donate button. We appreciate your support to keep the conversation alive. Take care. Be well.